It's so awesome to be here. Congratulations to Nana and his team for organizing this night. I'm so moved that you guys came together to put this evening together. It's also National Children's Grief Awareness Day. Doesn't that sound exciting? Probably not. For me, and for what I'll share with you guys today, it makes this moment even that more honorable and even that more purposeful. So I really, really appreciate you inviting me to spend time with you guys tonight. And before we get all wiggly in our chairs and think that all I'm going to talk about is death and grief, don't worry, it's much, much bigger than that. But it is about making a difference. And I've come to know two things. Even in tonight, I've heard them multiple times. We all have struggle, and we all seek purpose. Oftentimes when you're a young person especially, you feel that your struggle will hinder your purpose. But I'm actually here to share with you tonight that it is within that struggle that you will find your purpose. My story starts when I was in 7th grade. I was a little bit younger in this photo. But this was the last family photo that I have of my mom and my dad and my brother and I. I was in 7th grade, and I was in Miss Karawich's social studies class, and I got called over the intercom to pack my stuff and come down ready to leave. Now, never a good moment to be called to the office in front of your peers when you're in 7th grade, but I knew that moment was the biggest moment in my life, and I was frozen, because I knew that call meant that my mom had died. And she did die. She battled cancer for 6 years, and she left my brother, my father, and I on a whole new path in life. My life was changed. I looked around my school, my peers, and I didn't know anybody whose mom had died. I mean, ironically, we grow up with our fairy tales, and Cinderella and Snow White, their moms have died. But nobody in my world had lost their mother. So I was lost. I went through middle school and then on to high school, and I just was this empty shell. I mean, I had friends, I played basketball, I was even the class president. But what I wasn't was Kate Atwood. I didn't know who I was at that time in my life. And I remember just every day wanting to feel normal, wanting to feel that I fit in. But I couldn't find that outlet for myself. In fact, remember one time specifically when I was a big basketball player, and we were in the state finals, and we lost that game. We lost the state finals, and we're all in the locker room as a team, and we're all crying. And I stopped in that moment, and I said to myself, isn't it odd that I feel more normal crying for losing a basketball game than crying because I lost my mother? But I never had an outlet. I didn't talk about my mom for 7 years. And that's such a tragedy for her life and for my life and for my youth. It wasn't until I was 19 that I decided to volunteer. And I found this camp in Virginia. I grew up in Virginia, and I found this camp in Virginia that was working with kids who had lost a parent or a sibling. I'd never heard of such a thing. But I was like, I'm 19, I'm healed, let me go up here and see if I can help these kids. So off I went. I always loved working with kids. And because I was the youngest volunteer at the camp that summer, the camp director asked me to open camp with my story. Now, I hadn't talked about my mom or my story in 7 years, not even with my best friends. And now suddenly I was being asked to talk about my story in front of 200 strangers. But I accepted the challenge, and up on the stage I went. To this day, I couldn't tell you if I spoke for 5 minutes or if I spoke for 50 minutes. I'm not sure what I said or what my message was. The thing I do know is that I stood up there and my eyes were planted straight at the ground. I didn't see a single face in the audience, but I shared my story. And I remember feeling such relief and such freedom in that moment, a feeling that I hadn't had since my life was frozen in 7th grade in Miss Carwich's class. But that was only the beginning of that moment. See, I came off stage that night, and I went about my day feeling great about myself that I had just gotten up there to share my story. And I was brushing my teeth in the cabin that night, and a little girl came up to me and tapped me on the shoulder, and she said, "You're Kate, right?" And I said, "Yes, I am." She said, "Well, I lost my mom and my dad. They died in a car accident. But I'm so glad to be at camp with my brother and my sister, and I'm so glad I got to meet you." That's what she said. What I heard was, "Okay, Kate, this isn't about you. This is about her." And that was the moment that I shifted from being a victim of my struggle to a survivor. I didn't quite know it at the time, but I was starting to transfer my energy from asking, "Why me?" to "Who can this help?" And that's the power we all have when we want to go out and make a difference. A victim can share your story. A victim can ask, "Why me?" A survivor asks, "Who can this help?" and does something about it. I went back to Virginia, and I graduated from school, and I moved to Atlanta, never thinking that I was going to have this life where it was a career in nonprofits or starting anything like that. I mean, I was still very much in my lane of doing something big, and I was going to do something big in sports. And my first job down here in Atlanta was with the Peach Bowl, and then I went on to work in sports marketing, and I was on my way. Except I had this little passion in my back pocket to do something. So at 22 years old, I walked into my boss and I said, "I've got to quit." Now, anybody who's thinking about taking this route, come talk to me first, because I may have done it a little bit differently at the time. But I was ready to do something. And so I quit my job and off I went to start Kate's Club. Kate's Club is a nonprofit organization here in Atlanta that serves to empower children and teens facing life after the death of a parent or a sibling. Kate's Club is a symbol of hope and support and freedom for all our kids who have lost a parent or a sibling. More than 40,000 children right here in Metro Atlanta will lose a parent before the age of 18. I thought I was alone. But when I got older and started to do something with my own struggle, I realized that I wasn't alone at all. Now let me explain something. Kate's Club started with 6 kids at a bowling alley and a couple of my friends volunteering. I was 23 years old when we took our first kids out. I had no money. I had no fame to my name. I had no business degree. I had no reason that this should work, except that I had the startup capital of my own story. And I had the vision of a world that I knew could be better for all those kids that came behind me. Today, Kate's Club is an amazing organization. We've served hundreds of children in our programs at our clubhouse in Midtown Atlanta. We have outreach in the schools. There's a full-time staff. It's an amazing organization, and we've become a national voice for grieving children in this country. And we've become a national model for this type of organization. And I was 23 years old. There was no reason that this should work, except I wanted to do something. Except I looked at my own struggle. I looked at what burned in my heart, and I knew that there was a world better out there for the people that followed me. And that's really, really what I want all of you guys to take with you as you feel empowered to make a difference in your lives. Don't look at your struggle as what can hold you back. Look at it as what can make you find your purpose. And trust me, you will not only help someone else, but you will heal yourself. 2 things are true in this world. We all struggle. It may be different, but we all struggle. We all have a choice in that struggle if we want to be a victim or a survivor. You can ask, why me? Or you can ask, who can this help? And that's my challenge to all of you guys tonight. And just as a closing note to all my friends out there who are grieving, I want you to know, at its core, grief is love. We grieve because we love somebody so much. So if you're out there and you're grieving somebody that you love so much, I hope you hold up those emotions as if you would hold up a trophy for loving somebody that much. Thank you so much. God bless and have a wonderful evening.